Volcanoes caused the biggest mass extinction ever. New evidence suggests findings from recent research. Mercury found in ancient rock around the world supports theory that eruptions caused the Great Dying 252 million years ago. This is by University of Cincinnati. Researchers say the mercury buried in ancient rock provides the strongest evidence yet that volcanoes caused the biggest mass extinction in the history of the Earth. The extinction 252 million years ago was so dramatic and widespread that scientists call it the Great Dying. The catastrophe killed off more than 95% of life on Earth over the course of hundreds of thousands of years. Paleontologists with the University of Cincinnati and the China University of Geosciences said they found a spike in mercury in the geologic record at nearly a dozen sites around the world, which provides persuasive evidence that volcanic eruptions were to blame for this global cataclysm. The study was published in the journal Nature Communications. The eruptions ignited vast deposits of coal, releasing mercury vapor into the atmosphere. Eventually, it rained down into the marine sediment around the planet, creating an elemental signature of a catastrophe that would herald the age of dinosaurs. Quote, volcanic activities, including emissions of volcanic gases and combustion of organic matter, released abundant mercury into the surface of the Earth. End quote. This is what the lead author, Jun Shen, an associate professor at the Chinese University of Geosciences, said. The mass extinction occurred at what scientists call the Permian-Triassic boundary. The mass extinction killed off much of the terrestrial and marine life before the rise of dinosaurs. Some were prehistoric monsters in their own right, such as the ferocious Gorgonospids that looked like a cross between the saber-toothed tiger and the Komodo dragon. The eruptions occurred in a volcanic system called the Siberian Traps, that's Siberia of northern Russia. That's where they occurred, in what is now central Russia, and many of the eruptions occurred not in cone-shaped volcanoes, but through gaping fissures in the ground. The eruptions were frequent and long-lasting, and their fury spanned a period of hundreds of thousands of years. Now, the fissures, we know that that's what we saw recently, 2018 in Hawaii. It was not just the volcanic eruptions, the crater eruptions, it's also the ground cracking and the magma coming out of the fissures. This is what took place in the Siberian Traps. Quote, typically, when you have large explosive volcanic eruptions, a lot of mercury is released into the atmosphere, end quote, said Thomas Algeo, professor of geology at UC's McMillan College of Arts and Sciences. Mercury is a relatively low indicator for researchers. It has become a hot topic for investigating volcanic influences on major events in Earth's history, Algeo said. Researchers used the sharp fossilized teeth of lamprey-like creatures called conodonts to date the rock in which the mercury was deposited. Like most other creatures on the planet, conodonts were decimated by the catastrophe. The eruptions propelled as much as 3 million cubic kilometers of ash high into the air over this extended period. To put that in perspective, the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens in Washington was just 1 cubic kilometer of ash into the atmosphere, even though ash fell on cars' windshields as far away as Oklahoma. In fact, Algeo said the Siberian Traps eruption spewed so much material into the air, particularly greenhouse gases, that it warmed the planet by an average of about 10 degrees centigrade. The warming climate likely would have been one of the biggest culprits in the mass extinction, he said. But acid rain would have spoiled many bodies of water and raised the acidity of the global oceans, and the warmer water would have had more dead zones from a lack of dissolved oxygen. Algeo said, we're often left scratching our heads about what exactly was most harmful. Creatures adapting to colder environments would have been out of luck, so my guess is temperature change would be the number one killer. Effects would exacerbated by acidification and other toxins in the environment. Stretching over an extended period, eruption after eruption prevented the Earth's food chain from recovering. Algeo said it's not necessarily the intensity, but the duration that matters. The longer this went on, the more pressure was placed on the environment. Likewise, the Earth was slow to recover from the disaster because the ongoing disturbances continued to wipe out biodiversity, he said. Earth has witnessed 5 known mass extinctions over its 4.5 billion years. Scientists used another elemental signature, iridium, to pin down the likely cause of the global mass extinction that wiped out the dinosaurs 65 million years ago, and they believed an enormous meteor struck what is now Mexico. The resulting plume of superheated Earth blown into the atmosphere rained down material containing iridium that is found in the geological record around the world. Shen said that the mercury signature provides convincing evidence that the Siberian traps eruptions were responsible for the catastrophe. Now researchers are trying to pin down the extent of the eruptions and which environmental effects in particular were most responsible for the mass die-off, particularly for land animals and plants. Shen said the Permian extinction could shed light on how global warming today might lead to the next mass extinction. If global warming indeed was responsible for the Permian die-off, what does warming portend for humans and wildlife today? Quote, the release of carbon into the atmosphere by human beings is similar to the situation in the late Permian, where abundant carbon was released by the Siberian eruptions, Shen said. And Alego said it's cause for concern. A majority of biologists believe we're at the cusp of another mass extinction, the 6th big one. And I share this view too, Algeo said. And what we should learn is this will be serious business that will harm human interests, so we should work to minimize the damage. People living in marginal environments such as arid deserts will suffer first, he said, and this will lead to more climate refugees around the world. We're likely to see more famine and a mass migration in the hardest hit places. It's a global issue and one we should recognize and proactively deal with. It's much easier to address these problems before they reach a crisis, he said. Source is University of Cincinnati by Jun Shen, Qiubin Chen, Thomas Algeo, and it's on Science Daily. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.